When you decide to file for divorce, how hard was that?
Oh. It's very hard when you feel like that's the only option. You feel like you failed. You feel like not only did you fail the marriage, did you fail the family, did you fail your family who were riding on your marriage to be successful because maybe they couldn't have the relationship. When you fail people who have watched you on TV and think so much of the union that they see, you failed them. And not only did you fail all of those people, but you've also failed yourself. I felt like I failed myself. I feel like I could not reach the level of success that I intended for my life when it came to relationship. I felt like when I made my choice and walked down the aisle, that was the right choice. It was the choice that was aligned not only for me, but what God had set out for me. And it was what was designed for me. And sometimes what happens is when you're trying to find yourself and you're trying to live life authentically, the decisions that we think were God-led, we realize were not. They were self-led. They were ego-led. They were led by factors that had nothing to do with being equally yoked.
Dear future wifey.
Okay, scripturally, the Bible says your Father has already designed and purposed you.
I experienced an invitation of God this morning.
So you got to become an elite decision maker.
Elite decision maker.
He said, because you are one fleshly decision away from losing it all.
Etched in my mind is what true submission to Christ looks like.
I gotta maintain that secret connection I have with God.
I'm so full and don't want to belabor this letter.
And I understand how important it is for men to disciple men, because if I didn't have that, I wouldn't be where I am today.
I've traded worldly pleasures to live a God-centered life.
The encounter I just had, I just need to rest in it.
Help us to be considerate, creative, and courageous lovers.
I love you. Your future hubby. Welcome to the Dear Future Wifey podcast. I'm your host, Laterras R. Whitfield. Listen, are you still shacking up with us? If you're still shacking up with us, can we get a commitment? Hit that subscription button and subscribe. Make sure you turn on your notification bell so you'll be notified about upcoming episodes. While you're at it, hit the link in the description, sign up for our mailing list, and follow us on Patreon. And if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, go ahead and rate this episode of the podcast in general 5 stars and leave a review so people can be notified about the Dear Future Wifey podcast. Listen, man, I've gotten a chance to talk to this queen over the last month, and she's a pleasant surprise, because a lot of times you may make an assumption about somebody based upon seeing them on a reality show, but oftentimes reality shows bring out the worst in an individual, and it's edited and produced where storylines have to be adhered to by production companies. And so I like to just, instead of making an assumption about somebody, I like to meet them where I can make an informed decision. So without further ado, welcome to Dear Future Wifey podcast, my new homie, Monique Samuels.
Hey.
How are you doing, Queen?
I'm doing really good.
So do you get that a lot when people meet you? They go, you know what, you're a whole lot different than I thought.
Sometimes some people could see through the editing. So they'll be like, oh my God, you're even better in person. Or, I liked you from the start. And then you have people who maybe didn't. And then they're like, wow, you're so, like you said, you're so different.
You cool.
Yeah.
When I say you cool, but I talked to a couple of my homegirls and they already said that they was like, oh, I love Monique. Matter of fact, that's how I come to know about you is people sent your videos to me throughout this year. And I was like, who is this woman? And I started looking at, I didn't know you were on 2 reality shows.
Yeah.
Not only were you on the Housewives of Potomac, but the Real Housewives of Potomac, but also Love and Marriage DC.
Yes.
And
yes.
I was like, and I've come to find that out while you and I were discussing. He was like, oh, yeah, I was on. I said, you was on another show? Did you drag somebody on that one too? So it's so interesting. So let's back up.
Okay.
You're a single woman, right?
Yes, I am.
How long have you been single?
I've been single for a little over a year now. Officially on paper.
Officially on paper. And you were married for how long?
Married on paper 11 years.
Married on paper for 11 years. Why do you say that?
Because sometimes that marriage ends long before you sign the paperwork, unfortunately.
So if it ended on paper in 11 years, where do you believe it ended relationally?
December of 2022.
So was that year 10 or year?
That was the end of year 10.
Okay.
Basically just about the end of year 10. And that's when I told my then husband that I wanted a divorce.
So you told him you wanted a divorce a year before it came into fruition?
Yeah. A little less than a year later.
When people tell a party that they want a divorce, are you still actively working on the marriage in that year before it's finalized? Or do you just, this is the day I gave up?
So, oddly enough, on our 10th anniversary, that's when I felt like I've given this marriage everything. And I feel like I've been giving it so much. And I said, you know what? It's your turn. Let's see what you can do with it this year.
But you didn't say that on your 10th anniversary, did you?
It was right after.
Okay. I'm like,
it was
happy
right
anniversary.
after.
Guess what? I want a divorce.
We really tried. Like I know I really tried. But when at the point that I said I wanted a divorce, that's when there was no hope left. Even actually a month before that. So before I said I want a divorce, I said I'm done. And that was a month prior to me saying the words divorce because I didn't want to say those words.
Yeah.
I never spoke those words, not even playing within the marriage because I didn't want to speak death on the marriage. So a lot of times he would say that. It could be an argument. Well, why don't we just get divorced? I'd be like, stop saying that. Divorce is not an option until it was.
So you believe you were going to ride it out until death do we part?
I really believe that. Like you could not tell me years ago that I'd be sitting here today, a single woman, because that was the goal, right?
Single woman with 3 kids.
With 3 children.
Yeah.
3 bambinos. And I love them. And that was the best thing that came out of my marriage then. So.
Did having kids prolong the divorce? Were you the type that was like, we got these kids, I don't want to have these kids growing up in a single parent home?
Absolutely. And also, when you spend that amount of years with someone, you're going to look at it like, I ain't about to have no other chick come up in here and take what I've been working on. I ain't about to have somebody step up in here and benefit from everything that I have labored to get, So
Yeah.
I had that mindset, which was very egotistical. It was very selfish. And then I got to a point where I said, you know what, that's not fair. If I can't love you the way that you need to be loved and you can't love me the way I need to be loved, then why are we still holding on to each other? It's torture. It's like I need to let you go and I need to let myself go as well so that we can get what we deserve, right?
Yeah. And so when you look at it, and I don't like people sharing all the details about what led to divorce because I don't like them uncovering their spouses, but share what you're comfortable with sharing about why would you say this marriage ended?
There lacked a level of intimacy and vulnerability from the beginning.
Okay.
There lacked a certain level of covering and protection that didn't exist from the beginning. And a lot of times what we don't realize when we're young is that we think when we get married, that's the beginning and then all of the things can change and you'll get better. And what's in front of me is not necessarily how it will always be and we'll grow together and we'll get better. But that's not always the case. A lot of times when you get married, whoever that person is in front of you is who you're marrying. And sometimes it gets worse, not better. If you're lucky enough and you're grounded enough in who you actually are and you know yourself and you accept yourself and that person is also on the same page, it can get better. But when you start off in a marriage where you don't even know yourself, which was my case, then I'm looking at him to love the parts of me that I don't want to deal with. And then when he's not doing that, I'm getting mad at him because he's not showing up for me in the way that I think I need. But really, it's me who failed to show up for myself first.
That's good. That's good. People hear the word covering. When you say hindsight being 2020, he didn't provide a covering. What does that mean? Because for men, he's a high earning man. He played football, right?
Yeah.
Played football, so he's making good money. And a man says, listen, I'm supposed to be the provider. I'm giving you this lifestyle that I believe most women would love. And so I am covering you. I'm covering you financially. What do you mean by covering?
Emotional covering. Like if I'm expressing to you that, hey, this is what I'm going through. This is what I need from you. I want us to talk. I want us to have in-depth conversations. I want us to be open and safe with each other. I want to feel safe with you. But in the meantime, I'm still having to put that armor on. I'm becoming more masculine because certain things that I feel emotionally need to happen aren't happening. So now I don't feel safe. So now I get hard. Now I'm stoned. So when I say covering, I mean that level of emotional vulnerability that I think is necessary in any relationship. I want to feel safe. I want to feel safe to know that if I express something that I'm feeling, that you're open to hearing it and understanding it. But instead, that's turned into an issue. So if I'm expressing myself, just by me expressing myself is an issue for you because maybe you don't want to hear it, or maybe it's forcing you to be accountable, or maybe it's forcing you to change. And if you don't want to change and you don't want to be accountable, then it's a problem. So now I don't feel safe to say, hey, this bothered me when you said this, or this bothered me when you did that, because now I know that it's going to turn into an argument. It's going to turn into me being, I'm going to be made to feel bad that I have a feeling. So now I'm keeping all my feelings to myself, and now they're just stacking and compiling, and then I explode. And when I explode, because I'm reacting from something that happened that triggered something that was already there, now I look like the crazy, belligerent, nagging, nitpicking wife who is unreasonable. But,
When did the first explosion occur? What year?
Oh,
and
man.
what happened?
There were so many, actually, on our honeymoon.
Really? So how long did y'all date before y'all got married?
We were dating for 6 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So y'all have, 17 years of history with each other. Married 11 years on paper.
Yeah.
And but y'all dated 6 years prior to marriage.
Yeah. So on our honeymoon, it was this expectation that the romance that I was looking to receive, that I gave out, would be received. So I'm looking at it like before we got into a serious relationship and before we got married, I also worked for him. I was managing everything that he needed managed.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I was like his business manager.
Is that how y'all started?
No, it's not how we started.
So
We started as
dating
friends.
and then y'all started friends?
Yeah, we started as friends. We were friends for almost 3 years before we started dating.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm talking about platonic friends, no kissing, no...
Platonic. Yeah.
For 3 years?
Yeah,
Okay.
for 3 years. And then we were hump buddies.
So how long y'all...
For a year.
For a year.
And then we made it official in 2006.
So now let's talk about it. In the hump buddy phase, did you want more?
No.
Really?
At that point in time, my parents had just gotten divorced.
Okay.
So now I'm trying to redefine my whole outlook on life and what relationships are. So at that point, it was the perfect combination of people.
Yeah.
Because he was a person that's in the NFL where women are trying to get wifed up.
Yeah.
And now he meets this little girl that's 6 years younger than him that is basically like, I ain't thinking about marriage. What? Please, no, I'm just trying to have fun.
How old were you during that time?
I was like 22.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
when I met him, I was 19.
So you sure wasn't thinking about no marriage?
Well, then I kind of was when I was 19, and then it changed after my parents got divorced. So when
y'all were friends, platonic friends,
Yeah.
you were more likely to get married.
Yes.
But then after your parents got a divorce and you're 22, you like, I want to stay as far away from marriage as possible.
Exactly. And it was perfect for him because he's like, oh, she ain't trying to get wiped. And he was like an advocate against getting married. He was like, nope, I ain't doing it. Women change, this, that, and the other. They gonna take all your money. Like that was his mindset. And it was funny because when we did get married, all of his friends got married after that.
Really?
It was almost like, because it was like, if he would do it, oh, this must be good, because he spoke against it for so much, So yeah, but yeah, we were friends. We were like homeboy, homegirl. Like we would kick it, and he would say to me, most times I don't even like hanging out with girls like that. He was like, but you different. I actually enjoy hanging around you. But I was such a tomboy. Like he played football. I understood football. Like I literally understand the game. I know what a first down is, second down. I know how many yards going down the field you need before you get the touchdown. Like I knew football. So it was fun because it was almost like hanging out with one of your boys, but she cute. But she a woman, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And so when y'all, did it ever get complicated in that situationship phase?
No, because we both said to each other, look, you free to do whatever you want to do. But at the point, if either one of us are catching feelings, let's just be real and tell each other that.
That's good.
And we did that. And I remember the first time that I wrote him a letter, I had put Anne Marie's song on a CD. This is going back, y'all. I'm dating myself right now. Why Don't We Fall in Love? Like I was like so into it. I wrote him a love letter, and I was just like,
so you the first one to start catching feelings.
Yeah, of course.
And so why you say of course?
Because most times it's the woman. Most times we live in such, well, for me, I'll speak for me as a woman. I live in such a fanatical mindset where it's like I wanted the fairy tale. I wanted all of the goosebumps and the butterflies, and I am such a lover. Like I love, and it was like, oh, you're perfect. Like you're everything. You have everything I want. I had a list of 60 qualities, and he checked off most of those boxes back then. And I was like, yeah, this is it. And then it caught him a little off guard. It was just like, hold on now. I thought we was just doing this, that, and the other. And then we kind of fell back.
So how many years did y'all have? Y'all had 3 years of platonic friendship. And then how long did y'all have this, I couldn't call it situationship. Yeah. Because situationship is if y'all start thinking it's a relationship and one don't. So y'all just had a clear understanding.
It was a clear understanding.
Y'all was hump buddies.
We was. And then after.
How long was that though?
That was a little less than a year.
Okay, so it wasn't
too long.
And you started catching feelings then.
Yep, started catching feelings. And then he came back and then told me that he loved me.
So how long when y'all said, let's take a step back?
It only lasted like 3 weeks.
And then he came back.
Yeah.
Full court press saying, I love you. He said,
I can't stop thinking about you. And, I want us to like be official. And I said, all right, let's do it. And that's when we became official. And everybody knew. Like, we were the couple. And it's funny because when you have the whole NFL wife, you have the NFL wives, NFL girlfriends. And typically, the girlfriends are like casted out. And, but I was one of those girlfriends that was so much like a wife. I was cool with everybody. I was hosting the parties. I was like the entertainer, the hostess with the mostest. Like, we had a fun time. And he was well respected on the team. So, but he definitely was the bachelor that everybody was trying to get after. Like, he seriously was, because he's such a nice guy. Like he's from the South. He's he has good morals, and he was raised right. So it was like he was the catch. And he was the highest paid on the team. So for the girls that was really after that bag, he really was just like, I ain't fooling with it. He could see right away, like, you want me for this? Nah, I ain't fooling with you. But he knew with me, I genuinely just cared about the person. Like I didn't care about all of that.
So answer this: when y'all was in that other phase, were y'all open? Because like you said, y'all talked about dating other folks, but were y'all open and transparent about it? Was he like, you call, he like, listen, I got another chick over right now. I'll call you later.
It wasn't like that. It would be me and him would be out, and one of his other chicks might be there. And
he'll tell you, be like, oh yeah.
No, he had to tell me. It's obvious. Come on now. Like, you got to think about it. Women are aggressive. Women are very aggressive. They will make it very known, like, oh, so and I'll be like, oh, that must be one of them. Like, yeah.
They'll do that in front of you?
Yes. I remember one time we were at a club, and this girl, she was crazy. And I mean, she came in and she gave him this look, and she sat down right next to him.
And you were sitting next to her?
And I was sitting across because I had friends and stuff. So I'm not really like tripping. I'm not paying attention. Yeah. And she's throwing me daggers, all kinds of daggers. And I'm just looking at her like, okay, whatever. But we came together and we leaving together. So
were y'all in a relationship at that time?
No, we weren't in a relationship. But it was just like, it was like an understanding, and that's where we were. I wasn't tripping. He wasn't tripping. He did what he wanted to do. I did what I wanted to do. And we did what we wanted to do together. We was young. It was like, I mean, this is like my 20s. I was living life the way it was supposed to be lived in your 20s.
The way it's supposed to be lived.
Yes.
And so what was the moment that made you start catching feelings? What was it? Was it something that you were denying all up until that point? Or was it this, he did something, showed up a certain way on your birthday, or y'all had this conversation, or you had this internal moment where you were like, what happened?
I think it was the friendship. And I had a mindset back then where if you can establish a solid friendship first, then the love must be great after, and we were both going through things at the same time that were so aligned, where he needed my assistance in this and I needed his assistance in that. And it was just the perfect alignment, aligning of the stars, so to speak. And we were exactly what we needed for each other in that moment. So it just made so much sense.
And you confessed your love. He came back around. He threw him off guard. Then he came back around and said, I love you too. And then y'all dated for another 2.5 years or 3 years before y'all got married?
We dated for 4 years before we got engaged. And then a year and a half of engagement while we planned the wedding and, marriage counseling. And
okay, so when you were saying that y'all dated for 6 years, because y'all were friends for 3 years.
Yeah.
So y'all have known each other for 9 years before y'all got married.
Yeah.
Okay. So y'all has a strong foundation.
Yeah, one would think a strong foundation. But I think the part that where we both messed up, or I can speak to me where I messed up, is that I really didn't know myself. I knew certain things that I desired and I knew certain things that I wanted. But in that phase of my life, I was so much, I love to be in control of things. I love the routine. I love things to go a certain way. I was very particular, very over the top. It worked for him because he was so laid back. So it was like, I can sit back and just let her just go and do whatever she wants. And I'm good. So because I was a person that was of such order, him being so laid back worked for me because I could do whatever I needed to do. I could get done whatever needed to get done. And he wouldn't fight me on it because he knew that I would be acting in his best interest. But the things that make you fall in love with the person once you start growing and getting to know yourself can be the very things that break you up. Because now it's like, I don't want to be out here by myself making these decisions. I want for us to do these things together. I don't want all of the weight to be on me. And that became the foundation of our marriage, unfortunately.
And so when you got married, were you the type that verbalized when things weren't going right by your standard? Or would you just internalizing and building and explode? And I'll tell you why I asked that.
Mm-hmm. Now, you've known me for a couple weeks now. I'm going to let you answer that. Do you think I would hold anything in? Or do you think
but you might have come to that.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Listen, even on the show on Housewives of Atlanta, Potomac, I started looking at some clips because you told me, it's like, oh yeah, it was a moment where I showed out. Mm-hmm. And I was like, was that a build-up moment? And you said that was a build-up moment.
Yeah.
So it's like, I want to know if you did the same thing in a relationship where you don't verbalize how you feel early on and it just stacks up on each other and you have this big explosion that you mentioned earlier, that it's an explosion that takes place.
Yeah, so in the relationship, no.
Okay.
I always expressed. I expressed too much at certain points. And then I had to calm it down. And then I had to learn how to work on my delivery.
That's what I was about to ask you.
So for a man, you can't arm the man. You have to disarm the man. Yeah. And then you start to speak. So I always approached him. I got to a certain point where I mastered it. And I said,
tell me how you used to do it first.
Oh, how I used to do it?
Talk to me.
You don't do this. You don't do that.
Talk to me in real time.
In real time.
Talk to me.
You don't show up for me in the way I need you to show up. I asked you this. I didn't like how this situation went down. You never do this. You always do that. I used every wrong approach and word known to man.
And then how do you do it now? Talk to me.
And then it turned into, I really appreciate how you show up for me in these instances. I admire how you're being a father in these instances. I really value your insight and your input when I'm talking about this, that, or the other. But there are a few areas where I really would appreciate if you could meet me a little bit better. If you could come to me a little bit, more gracefully in how you correct my tone. If you can approach me in a different way that's a little bit more loving so that I don't get guarded and then I'm barking back at you. So now my approach is I'm going to honor you and show you that I really appreciate you and come to you in a loving way so that you don't automatically put that wall up before I can get to what it is that I need.
And what in 11 years on paper, when did that school of thought, when did that become implemented?
After I became a mom.
And
which was
how many years of marriage?
That was a year after we got married.
Really?
We got married. We got married and 2 months later we were pregnant. 2 months later we were pregnant. And what's crazy about that is we were for 6 years.
Yeah.
We were doing what we were doing and we weren't protected. And it's and we never got pregnant. And then as soon as we got married, we said we were going to wait 2 years.
And it was 2 months.
2 months later. 2 months later. So yeah, right before our first anniversary, I gave birth to our son. And once I became a mom, even while I was pregnant, it allowed me to be more calm because I had to be calm.
Yeah,
I was carrying a big baby, and I became
a 10-pounder,
almost 10 pounds, 22 inches long.
Can y'all imagine?
Yeah.
Her, how small she is, carrying a 10-pound child.
Yeah. I did that. I'm a G.
And you said you had the child naturally.
Yep. I pushed that baby right on out. No tears and no tears.
No tears and tears. No tears and no tears.
Yes.
And so you said pregnancy brought on a different level of grace and femininity in expression to your husband on articulating the things that you didn't like or things that upset you.
Yes. And one thing about me, like I said, I'm a lover. I'm an excellent lover. I'm a researcher. I want to know everything about you so that I know how better to please you, how better to show up for you. So with that being said, I would really seek out help. I wasn't afraid to say, help me. I'm reading all kinds of books on being that wife, of being in a marriage. I'm researching heavily. I want to show up and be the best wife possible. So we would have counselors. We would have our pastor at the time. We would sit down with our pastor and first lady all the time. And it got to a point where it almost felt like we couldn't even get through anything without having somebody else help us through it. And then that still wasn't enough, So but
he was open to going to counseling, right?
Yeah.
Which most men, a lot of men, they shy away from that. I don't need nobody telling me what to do. I don't need to you be telling them all our business. So the fact that he was open to show up in that, I'm proud of him for making himself available. Because a lot of men don't make themselves available to that. And y'all were did y'all ever go to pre-engagement counseling?
Yeah.
Or premarital counseling?
Oh, listen, we did every type of counseling you could think about. And what's crazy now that I look back, I can see that our marriage counselors back then, premarital counselors, they were trying to get us to call a wedding off.
Really? How?
Yeah. They would say things like, so is this date set in stone?
Well, that's a good indication that they said.
Right. And I'm looking at them yeah, it's set in stone. We already done sent the invitations out. I already got my dress. This day is happening. So you need to just tell me what we need to do so that we can be prepared. It was funny because there were so many flags that were going up and all of them were beet red, and now that I look back, because when you're in it, you just know you want what you want.
You got this date, I'm getting married.
Right.
We're not calling this off. We're getting married.
And I felt like our issues at the time weren't so big.
Yeah.
But it's not until the issues continue to show up that you realize how big they are for you. So I just felt we gonna get down this aisle,
What do you think that they were trying to reveal to you possibly about yourself during that stage? When you look back and go, they were trying to help me because of what I was doing in the situation?
I don't know that they did that, honestly. I think a lot of it, it wasn't even about him. It was more so about family structure and order.
Okay.
And they basically were so for instance, they would give us books to read. They would give him the male version and me the female version. I'm reading my book cover to cover. I'm like, all right, did you do yours? And he's like, nah, I ain't read it yet. Man, I ain't much of a reader. I don't feel like reading. I'd be like, I read it to you. That's how how impressed I was. I will read it to you.
Here's story
It is
time.
Story time.
Here's story time.
Let me tell you, we'd be sitting up in bed and I'm literally reading the book to him. Did you get that? And it says the man should, and did you get that? I mean, when I tell you, I was like, we are going to be prepared and ready. We have all the resources in front of us. Let's read this book. Did you do your notebook? Did you do your workbook? Did you fill out the answers? I mean, I was like pressing it on him and didn't even realize it, because at the point that you have asked me to marry you, I am in my mind thinking that you're going to do what's necessary for us to be married. But it was almost like, man, I done asked you already. Why I got to do all of this work? Our marriage counselor was like, I want for you to write a family plan. He said, I want you to write a family plan of what your vision is for your family and for your marriage. And I wrote the plan. And that wasn't my job.
He told him to do it and you did it?
Yes.
Why, was he taking too long? Or you just took authority like that?
No, he didn't do it. He wouldn't do it. He wouldn't do it.
And you decided to?
So I was just like, all right, well, let's do it together. But then us doing it together ended up being what I thought. You know, so it was just like, well, what you think about that? Well, I think this, that, and the other. All right, well, let's write that down. Like, you know, so it wasn't coming from him. So, and I think that was probably the reason why they're like, y'all ain't ready. You gonna be doing too much and he's not doing enough.
Yep.
And y'all aren't where y'all need to be. But they never just flat out said it.
And what happens is a woman will start taking the leadership role and then start resenting the man because she had to take the leadership role.
Hence why I am divorced.
Exactly.
Exactly
That's why I knew what was brewing, because you're the type of woman. You know, most people think that you're a type that's more assertive and would like to, I ain't gonna say assertive because you're assertive, but where you want to run things. But even getting to know you over these past couple weeks, I was like, no, you're a very submissive woman.
Yes, I want to submit, but you got to give me something to submit to.
I always say there could be no submission unless there's a mission. And so a man has to define what the mission is, which is what the counselors was trying to tell y'all, is to say, hey man, I want you to establish what this mission is. This is the family plan. And then once he articulates that and defines that, then a woman, you are able to say, cool, my husband has clear vision. I know how to sub, which means come under the mission and allow you to lead me. And when you had to usurp his authority and say, you ain't got it, I'm gonna create the mission for our family. And then you're trying to exercise it, but then you're dragging him along with it. And you're like, you too big to be dragging along. You know what I'm saying? I used
that exact analogy with him. Exactly what you just said. I remember this is during the time where we were separated, but we were still living in the same house. And we were sitting in the living room on a couch. And I said, let me give you a visual of what this has been. And I said, here you go. And I'm like grabbing a blanket and I'm acting like I'm struggling. I'm like, come on, we got it. Let's go. I'm like, come on, you still there? Come on, let's go. And he's cracking up laughing. And I was like, but it's too much weight. It's too heavy. I cannot just keep dragging along and then add the kids and then add everything else and all the responsibilities into it. And I said, it's too much. And I just got to a point where I said, I physically can't do it anymore. I really need for you to step up in the ways that I know you can. And for whatever reason, I'm not sure why it's not happening, but I know you're capable. I know you can do it, but I don't know if it's because I had made life so easy in the sense that he didn't have to do anything. Like how they say you created that monster. Yep. I stepped right in and filled right into what he was used to as an athlete, you know? And he did a lot for me as well. So we were balanced in certain areas, but in the areas where it was like, hey, you know, we have to make some changes or we have to step beyond what we saw growing up. Yeah. Just because you're doing a little bit better than what your parents did in their relationship doesn't mean that that's it. You can keep going. Yeah.
How did the show come about, and what year of your marriage were you invited to come do Real Housewives of Potomac?
Oh man, this is why I told my ex he's a powerful manifester, because he spoke that.
Really?
He spoke it. When they started promoting Real Housewives of Potomac, he kept saying, man, you could do that show. You could be on that show. And it's funny because I was actually the one that was just like, what? I would never do reality.
Had you been watching Housewives of Atlanta at the time?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I started watching, so I enjoyed watching reality TV. I started watching Real Housewives of Orange County, which was the first Housewives, and then Atlanta came, and I watched every season. I was an adamant fan. So when Potomac came around, it's so close to us. We have friends that lived in Potomac, and we were just like, we don't know who none of these women are. So it was just like, he's like, yo, you could do this. Man, I know you could do this. How you be snappy and sarcastic, you could do this.
That's the standard. You could be snappy and sarcastic, then you could be on the show.
And I'm such a jokester. I'm so silly. I'm so like, I don't think so highly of myself. Like I just
crack jokes.
Yeah, I will be the butt of my own jokes, and I don't mind.
Good.
I enjoy just laughing and just like, everything doesn't have to be so serious.
Yes.
And because he knows that about me, and he knows I'm from Jersey, and that Jersey come out every now and then, he was like, yo, you would be great. And I was like, no, I ain't doing no reality TV. And then a few months later, a friend of mine reached out and was like, hey, they're casting for Real Housewives of Potomac, and it ends tonight. I think you should submit something. And I was like, I'm not interested. I hang up. I go into the living room. He's like, what was that? I was like, oh, so-and-so called saying, that they're casting for the Housewives of Potomac. But I told him I'm not interested. He's like, man, you should do it. Just do it. And I was like, no. We were packing to go to Florida. And he's like, look, just do it. Worst case happens, if they say they want you and you still don't want to do it, then say no. But at least just go ahead since they're ending tonight. So I was like, all right. So I call him back. I'm like, what do I need? He's like, just give me like a synopsis of your family. Send me some pictures and all of that. So I'm like, all right, send that over to him. Didn't think about it. 2 days later, they're calling. And they're just like wanting to cast me for the show. And they wanted to interview me and get to know me more. So that whole process is how it kicked off. And then next thing I'm literally filming for a TV show, just as naive and green as I want to be. I didn't understand how reality TV really worked until after I got into it. And when I tell you, I was just la-da-da-da-da, we're all going to be friends. This is going to be so great. I'm going to show the world what a real black family looks like and how amazing we are. And we have kids and we this and we that. And y'all saw it.
For those that didn't see it, what did they see? Those that didn't see it, what did they see?
I feel like they did see a little bit of that. They did see a lot of that. They did. But they also saw in real time, in some cases, how it ended. Some people actually who watch Potomac, they could see some telltale signs, and they comment to this day. They'll be like, I remember when she would be like, I want this, that, and the other, and and he would respond like this, that, and the other, and they could see it. They could see it. I did what I thought was required in a marriage, which is you keep your business to yourself. Who is going to just put out there all of their issues? Who's going to post on social media when you're mad?
Yeah.
Like normally everything is always happy. I mean, that's what we all do. So some people were like, oh, you tried to make your marriage look like it was perfect. I never tried to make it look like it was perfect. I didn't just put on public display what we were dealing with in our home. Like, yeah, it's reality TV, but to a certain degree, we're still going to have our personal life and our privacy.
As you should.
Right.
As you should. When you look back, are there any moments where, because I assume you don't seem to be a type of person that live with regrets, but I just have to ask you this.
Yeah.
When you look back over anything that was shown on television, do you regret it?
I don't. I really don't regret anything. And if I regret anything that has happened, it would not allow me to be who I am right now.
Exactly.
I wouldn't be this person. I wouldn't be showing up right now as I am today.
That's how I live my life. You pointed out a moment where it was the least becoming moment of Monique. Would you say the fight was the least becoming moment?
No. No, I have a lot of least becoming moments on TV. I honestly would say that the least becoming moment for me was Love and Marriage DC.
Okay.
The way that I was talking to my then husband, the way that I was allowing myself to react, to be triggered, knowing that those moments were being put out there for the public. It was still my reaction, regardless of why I reacted that way. My reactions were my reactions, and I had to own them without people understanding the context of what was happening, maybe what was said to me that wasn't shown, that forced me to react in that way. At the end of the day, I had to look at myself and say, I could have reacted better.
Which moment are you speaking of? You talking about? It sounds like you're talking about multiple moments.
Oh, there were a lot of moments early on in the season. But what it was is they aired it early in the season, but it was a buildup. But of course, with reality TV,
they showed it out of timing. It took something that came later, but they brought it early.
Exactly. There was a buildup, and what a lot of people didn't realize was when we started filming Love and Marriage DC, he and I were not in a good space. We weren't really even talking to each other. So the most talking that we did was on camera. It was almost like we were having this marriage counseling session on camera, hoping that somebody that's watching, listening would hear us. So I'm yearning to be heard, and so is he. And we're talking at each other. And I had gotten to the point where I really believed that doing that show would be beneficial for our marriage. I was like, this is going to be what wakes him up. This is going to be what shows him what I need and what I've been trying to say. This is going to be... And it wasn't. It was what I needed to wake up.
So show me then, because I didn't watch neither of those shows. So tell me when I was married, my ex-wife, we used to watch all that stuff. Yeah. But I don't think it's a single man sitting up talking, I'm going to watch Housewives of Potomac. That just don't sit well with my spirit. So the reality is that what was a moment that you're talking about where you said, you're taking responsibility about how you spoke to your husband, but they didn't see what happened prior to.
Oh, man. I had a polka dot outfit on. I remember that. I can't remember exactly what we were talking about, but I was so fed up in that moment. We had just gotten back from our trip to Africa. We went to Tanzania and Kenya. We had just gotten back. And it was just like, it was one of those moments where I was tired of thinking for everybody else. I was tired. It was like the simple things that I felt were simple to show up for me weren't happening. I remember me being frustrated about the lack of support that I felt. He felt his support was financial, which it was. You financially supported. But I was like, in the little areas, like for instance, I had started doing radio and it was my first day on air. And I'm expecting you to show up for me in the same way that I was in those stands cheering you on when you were playing in NFL. Yeah. I'm expecting him to be glued, locked in, set your alarm, listening to the whole show the entire time. And he didn't. And then it hurt me because it was just like, this is the support that I'm asking for. Well, I had the kids and I had this and I had that. But you have help with the kids. And
you had nannies and stuff?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm like, the show starts at 6 a.m. The kids ain't awake. So my whole thing was like, show up for me in that way. Like, show up by listening.
Did you say that before?
Before?
Yeah. Like before, like the expectation, like instead of assuming because I did this for you, you're going to do this for me naturally.
Oh,
did you say, hey, make sure you listen to me today and because I can't wait to discuss and I want you to tell me what you thought.
Yes, absolutely.
And then he just didn't watch it.
He didn't listen. He didn't listen. And he didn't listen for a long time. He started listening to the radio show once him and I started falling further apart from each other. Then he started listening more. And then he was more locked in when we were in our worst space than when we were, still in the fight for the marriage.
Do you know why?
And do I know why he wasn't? No.
So what happened is that it's interesting because while he has you present, he can hear your voice, and oftentimes people take people for granted. It was a song. What was that song? You never miss a good something until they're gone. I'm so alone. Mm-hmm. I remember the song I was growing up with, and I heard that song. But basically, most people regret it after it's gone, and so he no longer has that connection with you. And so the only way he could get a connection was listening to you on a radio show to actually hear what you're talking about. It's sad because one should not allowed to get to that point, right. But also it's almost like you ended with a dude and now you see him in your stories all the time, all on your page all the time.
That's exactly what was happening.
But the whole time you can ask me, you see my post? I don't look at your post. I ain't seen that. You like, well, dang, and then you end it with him and he could tell you every post, what you had, what you said, who commented under it and everything. Right. It's just, it's sad because it's a self-fulfilling prophecy of saying, I don't want this happening, but you don't do anything to protect it or prevent it from happening. And then when it happens, you're living in regret, trying to keep that connection when it's gone.
Yeah.
And R. Kelly, said, hey, quoting him, but he says, when a woman's fed up, there ain't nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
It's like running out of love. What happens is that once you say it's done, it is so hard to rekindle that flame.
Yeah. A lot of times women, I'll speak for me, but I hear this from a lot of women. We try and try and try, and we give grace for years.
Yep.
And we'll keep trying to hold up hope. And then every time that the arguments happen, every time there's a misunderstanding, every time you feel unseen and unheard, a little bit of the connection just breaks and trickles away until there's literally nothing left. And we don't leave until we are already done and we've tried everything. So for me, it had been years of saying the same thing. And it was funny because I would say, it's not like I'm adding on new things. Because you do have some women that will do that. I need you to lose weight, then you lose weight. I need you to come and pick me up on time, and I need you to show up, and then you do that. I need you to be friends with my mom. I need you to be friends with my friends. It's always something being added onto it. It was wild because at the point where we had separated, we did a little trial separation for 6 weeks, and I was looking through notes in my phone, and I found this note from 2 years prior when we were having a marriage counseling session. And I'm reading the list of everything because she told us, she said, I want y'all to list everything that you feel is an issue in your marriage. And I read through the list, and it was to the T, exactly the same things that I had been saying, even at that moment, the same things that had already and always existed in the marriage. It was the same things. It was literally the same. And I sent it to him and I said, look at this. I said, I just want you to know that I've never been a nitpicky, naggy person.
Did he agree when you showed him that list?
Yes. He was like, you're right. He will admit and say, like, you right. Like, he's famous for that. Like, my family laughs because that's his words. Those are his words. You right. But at the end of the day, you can admit that you're right, but then where's the action that comes after, right? So I got to a point where I felt honestly like, as long as I make the changes and I'm doing everything that you're requiring, then life is peaceful because I'm not requiring anything from you. I'm not asking you. So I had a point in my life where I went completely silent. And it was after I had my daughter, and I went completely silent. And when I tell you, I really tried to own that whole, you be the example and you show up as the wife that don't worry about what he's not doing or what you're not getting. You just be that. And I did that for months. And I remember feeling I was so shattered inside, and I felt very alone because I was just simply holding on and not expressing. And it didn't feel right. It felt like, well, I'm showing up and I'm giving exactly what you need. But the only way there can be peace is if I shut up, is if I'm not heard and I'm not expressing what I need. And I remember it was like a gut punch. It was also like, it was like a compliment, but it also like really like punched me in my gut. He came to me and he said, you know what I've been noticing? I'm telling you, like the past few months, you have been so pleasant. And I mean, I really enjoyed you. And you've been so like, I don't know what's changed, but I'm really enjoying this version of you. Like I'm really enjoying, for lack of better words, that's what he said. And I was just like, oh, okay. So as long as I shut up and I don't express what I need from you, and I'm not saying, hey, I need this, I need that, I need the other. As long as I'm just doing everything, life is grand. And it felt miserable. I was proud of myself because I was like, okay, I was able to push beyond and do those things. But then at the same time, I'm like, but what about me? And it was wild. It was very interesting.
When I say that's such a similar story to mine, I've been there. That's why I'm just listening to you. And I'm like, yeah. Because that's what you have to do, especially if you're going to be the one to file for divorce. You have to say, well, it's best that you do this, is say, listen, I'm going to try everything in my power to be the best version for this person and then see if it still works.
Right.
And then you do all that and then you check in with yourself and say, how did that make me feel? Well, it made me feel great that I was able to show up outside of my my desire.
Right.
You know, I have a propensity to try to have my needs met, but if I'm gonna step outside of that and go ahead and serve, which is what marriage is about, then how does that make me feel? And does the person acknowledge it to say, well, let me also change so I can give you the experience you just gave me. And then when it looks like and appears to be like, see, you was the one that was the problem, and thank you for fixing you. And then you like, well, I need you to fix you too, so you can come work on me.
Right.
And so it's just, and you feel that, you go, you know what? It's a waste of my time. And so I used to liken it to, I used to call it the cursed fig tree that wasn't bearing fruit in season. I said my marriage is a cursed fig tree that's not bearing fruit in season. I know what a marriage is supposed to be. I know they're supposed to be bearing fruit, but it's just not bearing fruit.
Yeah, and it was interesting because he's so laid back and he's so chill. So everybody else from the outside in, they're looking at me like she's all over the place doing everything. And he's so laid back. He's so chill. Like, you know, and sometimes that laid back chill is a part of the problem.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, well, I need to get something. I need to get some type of reaction or action out of you. And just because you're not the one that's bringing up the issue and you're not the one that is, you know, saying, hey, here's the problem, you're just holding that in.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you're being peaceful. It just means that you're holding it in.
Yeah.
And then what happens is now when you get into this argument where I'm coming to you and I'm saying, hey, but this is what I need from you. Now, everything that you were peaceful about, you're using as a weapon.
Yeah.
Well, when you did this, I ain't say nothing. And when you did that, well, if you ain't say nothing, then why are you bringing it up now?
That's a passive aggressiveness.
Right.
When you decide to file for divorce, how hard was that?
It's very hard when you feel like that's the only option. You feel like you failed. You feel like not only did you fail the marriage, did you fail the family, did you fail your family who were riding on your marriage to be successful because maybe they couldn't have the relationship. When you fail people who have watched you on TV and think so much of the union that they see, you failed them. And not only did you fail all of those people, but you've also failed yourself. I felt like I failed myself. I feel like I could not reach the level of success that I intended for my life when it came to relationship. I felt like when I made my choice and walked down the aisle, that was the right choice. It was the choice that was aligned not only for me, but what God had set out for me. And it was what was designed for me. And sometimes what happens is when you're trying to find yourself and you're trying to live life authentically, the decisions that we think were God-led, we realize were not. They were self-led. They were ego-led. They were led by factors that had nothing to do with being equally yoked, you know? So it felt like my entire life and everything that I thought was good, because in those moments, I thought that this is it. This is good. This is right. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do.
You go get Kleenex and you can go to the restroom. I need to get some more.
Thank you. It transported me when you asked the question. It took me right back to that feeling of walking into the courthouse by myself when we were mutually going through the divorce process with a mediator. But then when it came time to actually file the paperwork, then everything changed, you know? Mm-hmm. And then the same alone feeling that I had felt the entire marriage, it was like, well, why would I expect to feel anything other than alone as I exit, if it's what I felt while I was in it? And then that was also...
Thank you, Arsenio.
So that was also... it was a big moment of realization, of removing the illusion, of realizing that a lot of what I thought my life was not at all anything like it was in reality. It was the moment where I felt truly alone. And I felt the weight of the marriage had been lonely.
Yep.
You know, there would be times where I could be sitting right next to him on the couch and I'm missing him so bad because I'm missing the connection and the conversation, and I'm wanting him to look at me and give me a compliment. I'm walking by in booty shorts and I'm like, smack my butt, do something. You know, I'm like, show me some sign of you desire me. And, you know, and it was like all of these things came flooding into my head. And I remember leaving the courthouse and I remember sitting in my car and just crying. And it wasn't tears. It was more tears of freedom and realization. It was more like, wow, this sucks. But I'm glad I finally came to the point where I really accept what my reality has been. Yeah. I've been denying it for so long.
Yeah. You, an interesting thing people want to know, was there any infidelity in your marriage?
No.
And most times people liken divorce, especially when you have marriages where, you know, people that have influence and finances and all that, they're like, well, somebody must have been cheating. And so I was glad to hear from you that you was like, no, I mean, you don't believe that there was any infidelity on his part nor your part,
right?
Which makes it even more challenging to file for divorce, because there's like the biggest issues that people have, you just like now have to file irreconcilable differences.
Right.
You know, what did you put in your divorce decree? Was it irreconcilable differences?
It was an absolute divorce, something that the state of Maryland created, which is where two parties can just decide that this is no longer working for me.
It's called an absolute divorce?
Yep. It's called an absolute divorce. And that's what we filed. And it basically is stating that we both have agreed that we no longer want this marriage. And so it's like equal on both parts. You know, even though I'm the one that filed and initiated it, he agreed. And then we went through the process. But yeah, I feel like it's harder to explain when, excuse me, the Starbucks. I used to burp out loud, but God delivered me. So now I know how to like do it in a very dainty, feminine way.
Watching the football game.
Right. Like, oh my God, it was terrible. But no, I think it's easier to explain when there's been physical abuse or there has been infidelity, because then it's like, oh, I get it. Yeah. But it's like people use that as the standard and the only reason for a marriage ending. They don't look at it as, okay, these two people have grown apart. For whatever reason, they're not growing together. And if it's not growing, it's dead. So it's like, who wants to stay in something that is dead, you know? And for me, they don't look at the emotional abuse, you know, because it may not be intentional. But if you are in a position where you constantly feel like what you're feeling doesn't matter, and the reason I feel like it doesn't matter is because I express it to you and then you do nothing about it. Right. Or you make me the problem because I'm feeling it. You know, that can do just as much damage as a physical wound because it's happening inside of you. You know, it's a scar that is now sitting. It's a wound that's now open and unable to heal inside of you. And because you can't see it, people think that it's not a big deal. But it starts to wear on you and you become depressed. You become sad. You become, you just feel like you don't have much value.
What did he say when you told him that you were going to file for divorce? Did you tell him in advance or did you just blindside him?
Oh, no, I definitely told him.
Okay.
Yeah, so we were actually in Atlanta, and it was November of 2022 is when, it was like the end of November, and that's when I told him, I said, I am done. And however he took it, I don't think he really believed when I was like, I'm done.
But that's the first time you ever said that, right?
Yeah. No, not I'm done. That wasn't the first time I've said I'm done. We used to say that all the time. Like,
But you just never said divorce. But you never
I ain't never said the other D word. It'd be like, I am done with this conversation. I am done with this, But I know he felt it because I know he could feel the sincerity behind it. And I was just like, I am done. Like, I have tried. I'm done. And then a month later, I came back from Egypt and I was like, I just feel the best option for us would be to get a divorce. So I want a divorce. And I would like for us to be able to do this in an amicable way. I don't want to fight you. I don't want anything to interrupt the co-parenting relationship that we'll need to have. And I said, as amicable as possible. We can look up a mediator. And we talked about it. And then on January 1st, New Year's Day.
Before you got there, what was his response? Okay.
Oh, yeah, he said, okay.
In that moment.
He said, if that's what you want.
Okay, good. In that moment, as a wife, how would it have been if he said, I don't want to give up on you. I don't want to give up on my marriage. I want to fight for you. And I'm willing to show you whatever needs to be shown, whatever I got to do. I realize that you're serious this time. I don't know what it is. I don't know what's caused this, but I am going to go do some deep diving in my soul and we finna fix this. Give me 60 days.
At that point, I was already done. We had those conversations prior. We had those conversations.
Did he say that? Did he say he's gonna work on it?
Yeah. Oh, he always said I'm gonna work on it.
And then do nothing?
He would work for a little bit. And then as soon as, it's like a pattern. It's like you're getting stuck into this loop,
Yeah.
It's like this loop. And what I would do, so the pattern was we would have these deep talks. We had these conversations. We would express, he would express, I would express. I didn't require you to earn anything from me. It was like, I'm going to go back to being the loving wife, the Moni that you know. So as long as you're receiving that, you'll start out like, all right, let me try to work on it. But then you get comfortable because why change? You're still getting what you want, So what happened was over time, you would just kind of slip back into the same pattern. And then all of a sudden we're having the same conversation again.
This is a cycle.
It was a cycle. It was a bad cycle. Yeah. I think at the point where when I finally said it, he knew that I had tapped out. Like he knew. And
there was nothing he could do.
It wasn't much else he could do. And he said, I'm going to still show up as the husband that I need to be until you're no longer my wife on paper. But even with that being said, it's like now my door is closed. So even if you are trying to do things and show gestures, it's landing on deaf ears now because I've given years and years and years.
So at that time, there was nothing you can do. Literally nothing.
There was nothing. Because at that point, I felt like you've already shown me who you are. And honestly, what I'm looking for, you are no longer that person. And what you're looking for from me, I can't be that person for you anymore.
How is y'all's co-parenting relationship right now?
You trying to be messy.
No, I'm asking. You can say it's good. God. It could be good. It could be a work in progress.
It's getting better. It's a work in progress. It's a work in progress. From my standpoint, it's all about my children. I'm just focused on them. Any conversation outside of the children, I'm not entertaining.
I ain't gonna say I'm trying to be messy. I'm just asking.
I know, it was just funny.
Because I know the truth.
Because we've had talks. So
I'm just saying, a little optimism to be like, we're working on this. It's a new dynamic we're trying to work through. We was married for 11 years and we've been only divorced, what, a year? A year and
a little over a year.
Yeah, a little. So it's still taking some used to. Getting used to. Because what happens too is that, especially when someone, I just hurt his heart. So what happens is this: someone who didn't believe in marriage, like your husband, he didn't believe in marriage. He didn't want to ever get married.
Right.
And then he says, "This is something." So thank you. I'm gonna speak the heart of your ex-husband.
Okay.
Because it just started downloading. He never believed in marriage. Wasn't planning on getting married. Had established a great little thing with you where it was like, hey, this is my friend. It started off in friendship. I believe the best relationships are rooted in friendship. Then y'all brought sex into it. So y'all was, what you call it?
We was hump buddies.
Hump buddies, yeah. You said hump buddies. So y'all hump buddies, and then y'all go from hump buddies to you caught feelings, and he could have just let it ride out and be like, all right, you caught feelings, cool, I'm done. We had an agreement. If one person start catching feelings, we'll decide what we need to do at this moment. I'm deciding that this ain't what I want. He took a moment to reflect a couple of weeks later and just said, I love you. He didn't come and say, you know what, man, hey, you cool or whatever, be my girlfriend, circle yes or no. He said, I love you. And so he said, I love you. And then he, quote unquote, made you an honest woman. Where, from the old school, especially from the South, is to marry somebody and make them an honest woman. So here he is. He married you. And boom, 2 months later, y'all get pregnant, have a kid. Now the responsibility of fatherhood comes into play. He didn't have any kids prior to marriage, did he?
No.
So here it is. So he's doing everything the quote unquote right way. It's so unfortunate that most men aren't taught emotional intelligence. It's just not. And so that was what was working. Again, that's still not an excuse because once you get married and the Bible says when I was a young boy, I spoke as a boy. I acted like a boy, but I became a man. I would put childish things away. So what wasn't afforded to you early on, you can, like you said, you research, you study, you're going to figure out what it takes to become better. As men, we need to do the same thing. Unfortunately, he didn't do it. And now here he is. He's sitting here. He was never going to divorce you, ever. Ever. No matter how bad that relationship may have been for him, no matter how much he heard it being bad for you, he was going to ride that thing out till death do we part.
Yep.
And then here it is, the very thing that he never wanted to happen, which is, I don't want nobody divorcing me and taking my money, which I'm going to have you talk about that too, because that was an interesting fact that you brought out.
Right.
I don't want nobody divorcing me and taking my money. A divorce happens and he's like, see, I done trusted my life with this woman. I done trusted my heart with this woman. I had 3 kids with this woman.
Right.
Most of the times men believe if they start having kids with the woman, she ain't going to leave. It's like, so you're going to be a single mother with 3 kids.
Right.
Now, come on.
Listen, I used to tell him, you better not die. Because if you leave me a single mom with 3 kids, we going to have some issues. I'm going to go to the gates of wherever you ended up and I'm going to snatch you back on up out of there because you ain't about to have me after these babies and a few stretch marks looking crazy. I used to say that to him.
She said, whatever gates you showed up.
Hey, we can't be certain.
I'm going to go to whatever gates you ended up at. And so this is interesting because like you said, you've been accused of being a gold digger.
Yeah.
This was interesting to find out. What was the terms of your divorce?
So we had a prenup. And when we sat down to create our prenup, it was with the intention of, I don't ever want you thinking I want what you have or want you for what you have. So like I said, at the time when Chris and I first were sitting down when we were first together, I was working for him. So the way we did it was as if I was still his business manager, whatever that salary would have been. Yeah. That would basically be, because once we got married, it basically was like, I no longer have a job. I have no need to have income. Yeah. It's not like I'm getting money and I'm sitting it into an account for me. It was just basically like in the event that we get divorced, here is what would have been your salary over the past however many years if you were still working. So it was more so to cover the fact that I wasn't going to have a job. Yeah. So my mindset with a prenup back then, it wasn't so I can be set if we get divorced. It was so that, well, I'm not working and I'm used to working. And if I had worked, what would my salary have been? Yeah. And then we just made that accrue every year for the marriage or whatever. And it was supposed to be something that went up every year, but in good faith, because I'm looking at him and I'm like, listen, this is not while I'm here. So just keep it the same number across the board, which was probably stupid because I wasn't considering the fact that when you write a prenup, it has nothing to do with children. Mm-hmm. So the amount of money that I would receive is not thinking about the fact that, oh, I might have several kids who need bedrooms,
Right.
who need a yard, who need whatever if I'm looking for a house. I'm thinking of it from the aspect of
you.
me by myself. Oh, I can go get me a little condo and I'm gonna be fine. So when we finalized everything, the prenup is already set. There's no alimony. I don't get any money from him, like at all. I could have, like most women do, they typically will go after like full custody of the kids. And then there's this whole battle for child support.
Yep.
I said, I'm not going down that road because at the end of the day, that's not why I was ever here.
So you don't get child support either?
I don't get any child support.
You don't get child support or alimony. You just get the subsidized income that you would have had you still been working with them.
I got, basically it was a one lump sum payment. And I used all of that money to purchase my home because I wanted to make sure that my children had their own bedrooms. I wanted to make sure that they would come from their home, which I created in Potomac. But I wanted them to come to this new home and still feel like it's home. It still feels safe. It still feels like mommy. It's cozy. And I wanted to find the perfect place for that. And I was able to, thank God. And then I was working in radio. And then I have my essential oils company, Millie Essentials. So I'm using the money that I make from now just that company, because I actually left radio so I can have more time with my kids. They were having a little bit of a rough time in between with the whole transition. And I did not want them not waking up to either parent. So in essence, what happens is when they're with me, they're waking up to the sitter who I had to have while I did radio, because I did morning radio. So they were only waking up to me on Saturday and Sundays. So like I would come home from work and then I'm with the kids the whole time. But then when they're with their dad, they're waking up to the nanny most times. So sometimes, but most times. So I sat back and I thought about it and I was like, my children are not waking up greeting either parent in any instance. So I had to make the decision, and my kids are homeschooled. I was like, you know what? I'm going to step out on faith on this one. And I'm going to just focus on my company full time. And I'm focusing on my children, because right now, these years, I can't get these years back.
Yeah.
I can't get any years back, but these years especially are important. And I want to make sure that I am very present in their life and make sure that they feel safe and they feel heard and all of those good things. So I left radio. And then, I did not want to fight him. I didn't want to fight him for something that he felt was so valuable, which was his money, which was the reason that he said he would never get married. Yeah. So I didn't know. So some people really in their mind think that I walked away with half his wealth. They think that I walked away with a bag. And I'm like, no. And I have no problem with living within my means.
Right.
Like I have never been a person who was so, I did not define myself by what I had or what I had access to. If I have access to and I'm able to do, I will do. But if I don't, I can still live just as great of a life within my means. And I have no problem with that.
So when you look back and you were living in a 12,000 square foot house and now you live in what? How many square foot?
It's a little over 5,000.
Okay, so you still got a big old house. So I was trying to make a point here, and it didn't go nowhere.
It's still a point though, because it is a drastic lifestyle change, you know.
I thought you about to say I live in a 2,500 square foot, a 1,200 little condo.
No, I still need my space now. But I'll tell you, as far as the flexibility, like for me, travel is major for me. So I'm like, my children are accustomed to traveling. I'm still going to travel with my babies. I'm going to make sure that they still get their trips. I just got back from Aruba for Chase's birthday. Yeah. We travel. My children believe that birthdays belong on beaches. So you cannot tell them otherwise. So for Christopher's birthday, we were in the Bahamas. Milani's birthday, we actually went to Canada for her birthday, but because she really wanted to go to Canada.
So what's wrong with Miami? They can't go to Miami Beach. They can't go.
We do that too.
Now y'all do that just on the weekends.
Right. My mom lives in Florida, so we do that. But yeah, we went to Belize. So I'm like, my children are accustomed to traveling. I'm grateful that I'm still able to do that for them. But people like literally will comment on my page and they think that Chris is paying for those things. They think that my ex is paying for it. No, I'm buying them tickets. I don't have to fly first class as long as me and my four kids, the four of us, me and my three kids can get on the plane. We flying Southwest. Yep. It's what is it? The fares that be like low. We ain't gotta worry about choosing those seats or paying for no bags. I don't mind I just move and I flow. I don't mind, like I don't feel any type of way. I never allowed my identity to be associated or attached to what I had, you know? So, and I still have everything I need.
As we get ready to wrap up, I know a lot of people are curious. What type of man do you want now? And does he have to be a high-earning man?
He doesn't have to be a high-earning man. I never needed that. What I need is to continue to develop who I need to be for me. And I say that wholeheartedly because I believe that in my youth, when I decided what type of man I thought I needed, it was a lot about what I lacked. And now I just don't believe that any of us should live in lack. So I want to become everything that I need, and I will meet the person that aligns with that. Like, I don't think that I can't really paint a picture for you as to what type of man would be. I just know when I meet him, I will know. Usually they say the man knows first. So when I meet him, he will know, and then I'll catch up.
But you saying finances ain't a part of it?
No,
really?
No. Honestly, it's not. It's not. It's just not for me. And especially because I've lived a life where finances was an issue. So at the end of the day, I can live and I can tell you I've seen both sides of it. And for me, what's most important is being in a relationship where there is emotional security. Financial security is just an added bonus. But the emotional security, I need to know that I am heard. I need to know that I am validated in what I feel. I don't ever want to live a life where I'm so in my head where I really feel like I'm losing my mind and I'm going crazy. And I'm just like, damn, like whatever I say.
You did good.
I did so good.
So for y'all, I made a bet with Monique that she will not be able to do this interview without saying a curse word. But you said, you know, that was light. That was light.
For 38 years, I didn't cuss.
Yeah. She said she started cussing after what? After your divorce?
No, it was during the process of me trying to find myself. I found myself through swearing. And it's been very therapeutic. Man, it's so therapeutic. It ain't nothing like dropping an F-bomb. Talking about bombs in Gilead. Nah, these F-bombs be working for me.
You said something before recording. I said, remember that. What was it when I said something about a profession of a guy, the job title?
Oh, yeah.
You said, what'd you say about job title?
I don't care about the title. You could be a gym teacher. At the end of the day, if you treat me in a way where I feel safe to be soft and you give me something to submit to, you give him, like, a man has to have vision in order to lead. So if you're a man with a vision, you could be a man that is a professor that is pumping gas. You can have a vision at a gas station of what you know your life can be. And that's the beautiful thing about relationship is that when a man has a vision, women, we're incubators. We're going to bring that vision to life. We're going to give birth to that baby.
So you tell me you would give time to that person? Because
Absolutely.
It sounds great if you got a chance to experience that love in due season. But on the initial, hello, Monique, hey, he shoot his shot at you. You were at the airport and a TSA agent was like, hey, and approached you and asked you for your number or whatnot. Would you be open to giving it to him? Because you're seeing his profession straight up.
Right.
And you're seeing someone else's profession, depending on where you met him at the UPS store or the post office, and they holler at you. Would you be open to engaging in dialogue?
I'd be open if I feel like there's a connection that can potentially be something.
So you got to feel it.
Yeah, of course I have to feel it. And it can't just be how you look or what you do. And honestly, I don't even like asking people what they do because there's a saying that you want to know what people do so that you can gauge how much respect you should give them. It's like, you're a doctor. Oh, okay, you're a doctor. Now it's like automatically like I'm triggered to give you more respect because of what you've been through to get to be a doctor. But if you're a person who is like, yeah, I volunteered this, that, and the other. Oh, you volunteer? Oh, okay. Like, that's messed up. People do that. It's like, why are we asking people, what do you do for a living and how much money you make? Because you're trying to figure out how much respect you need to give that person based on a dollar amount. People are so vain and pretentious, and it needs to stop because I really feel like we are missing out on who we may be meant to be with and grow with and build something with because we're looking at the person as if what you see is the end all. Like they could be something great.
I've never heard that you said people find out what people do to determine what level of respect to give.
Think about it. Think about it. If you meet somebody and they say, oh yeah, I'm the president of this association, you're like, oh, okay. But if you meet somebody and then they're like, yeah, I work at the store where I clean fish tanks, you're like, oh. Oh, you clean fish tanks? But you may not know that fish tank might be in Dubai's Twin Towers or something. Like, they could be making bank, but because they telling you they clean fish tanks, you already in your mind said you do not deserve my respect because you around here fishy.
Oh my God! So you tell me you tell me because you don't even date nobody.
No,
you don't date at all.
I'm not ready.
So you ain't been on no dates since you've been divorced.
I ain't been on no dates. Ain't nobody in my DMs trying to take me out. People would send me eye looking emojis. What am I supposed to do with this? You see me? Okay, I see you. Now what? Like, what? Is this how y'all are? This is how you coming at people? Like, what? I don't get it. But
you say eye emojis?
Yes, you looking. Like,
he said, what am I supposed to do with this?
What am I supposed to do with your eyes? And they not even your real eyes. They emoji.
So fellas, make sure that's not your approach with make sure that's your approach with Monique. Sending the eye just ain't gonna do.
Oh man, then you got the ones that just be, oh man. I've had some very interesting DMs. Then you got the ones that's just trying to affirm you. So what and I just be looking at you skeptical. Like, you just trying to say everything that you done watched in the interviews that you know I need or looking for. And now you are a beautiful queen and you're a mother who deserves to be praised. And what church you going to? Like, what are you talking about? Oh my goodness, people are funny, man.
They try, Monique. They trying their best. They trying their best to try to, open up the door of opportunity to have a conversation.
That ain't the way to do it. That is not the way to do it.
We ain't gonna tell you how to do. Tell you to tell them. They just need to figure that out. That's the mystery of it all. How can we support you?
Oh my goodness. Y'all can support me by buying some of these essential oils I be selling. No, I have an essential oils company that I love. It's called Mila Eve Essentials, and that's the diffuser with the oils
so
over
fast.
there.
Say the name again.
Mila Eve Essentials.
Spell it.
MILA.
MILA.
EVE Essentials.
Okay.
ESSENTIALS. .com.
And so what she did, she done came in here and brought her diffuser. She traveled around with her diffuser. She done put it up. So it smells amazing in here.
Does.
And then she got these oils or whatnot. And I told her she got to leave me some of this stuff because it's absolutely amazing.
Yes.
And what's the website?
It's shopmilaeve.com or milaeveessentials.com. So I'm doing that. I'm in the process. I've been writing a book for the past 2 years on my whole entire spiritual journey, what I've learned, the outlook on life that I now have. I love that there are versions that of everyone has a different version of yourself that you're trying to elevate to, so that you can then receive everything that you desire. So many people just want, but they don't want to be the person who can receive. So it's like changing that whole perspective. So I'm really excited about that project. And yeah, I do a self-challenge series on my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is called Tea with Monique. And it's been a nice outlet for me. And if it helps other people, wonderful.
Good.
But yeah, I'm in a really good space. I have my days where the emotions are so heavy because when you go through life and you have stored up so much that you didn't deal with, sometimes it just comes out at moments where you're not expecting it. And it's like, why am I feeling this? What is triggering this?
Hold up. And you had this moment recently, and I said I want to touch on that. So, I just did a preacher close where he's about to close, but we're going to close again in a little bit.
Okay.
I want you to touch on that real quick.
Yeah, I feel like, and I talk about this even in my writing, a lot of times the topic of removing yourself from this physical plane is such a taboo topic, right? But a lot of people feel like they're so alone because they can't even speak the words of, I can't take it anymore, because they're fearing that somebody will then think that, oh, you need to be in a mental home, or you're at risk of this, that, or the other, when really it's just an expression of what you feel in that moment. And a lot of times when you are elevating in life, you're experiencing sort of like a death. You're experiencing a death of that version of you, and you're in mourning of the person that you used to be because you were accustomed to being that person for so long. And now you're stepping into this new version of yourself that is unknown, like a new baby coming into the world. And you're like, I'm in between who I used to be and who I'm going to be. And I feel very lost and I'm shedding. And the shedding feels so great that it feels like I don't want to be here anymore. But really, it's not that you don't want to be here. It's that past version of you you've outgrown. And now you're shedding out of that version and you're stepping into this newness. And it's scary because it's unknown. And I feel like if a lot of people had that ability to be open and share those thoughts and feelings openly and not feel alone, a lot of people would still be here today. So for me, I have my mom. She has been my rock. And she reminds me every day of, this is what you asked for. This is, you asked for God to open these doors for you. You asked for God to create this new life for you. You asked for God to allow you to walk in your purpose. So every day, that's what you're going through. You're clearing out everything so that you can have everything that God is wanting to give to you. But it can be such a process where the weight is so heavy and you're trying to heal. But the thing about healing is that you have to feel those emotions and not try to discard them. You have to go through it. And it's like last week, I had like 2 or 3 days where I just felt so down. I felt so depleted. I had to have a woe is me day of just like allowing whatever pity I had for myself, whatever self-loathing I needed to do. I just let myself do it so that I can do it, get it out of my system. And then I felt so much better afterwards. So you have so many people, especially these Instagram pages where they're trying to promote spiritual journeys and they make it seem like don't think negative. You have to always think positive. Well, sometimes you have a negative thought and you want to express that negative thought. And me expressing it is me letting it go. And then I meet that with something positive. But I have to get it out. I don't want to deny the thought or the feeling.
And I'm glad you brought that up because even Jesus had that negative thought. He said, take this cup from me. He was like, I don't want to feel this. This is painful. This is sad. I'm scared. I'm fearful. I know what the days are set before me. I don't want to be crucified. And then he came back around and said, but not my will, but let thy will be done.
Exactly.
And so we all have to normalize having those down moments, but to replenish ourselves with the positive.
Yes.
Listen, I want everybody to go out. There's going to be a link in the description for people to support these amazing, or what's that that I smell right now?
Oh, right now you're smelling, it's called Fresh Home Scent, bergamot, and lemongrass.
Oh, it's all mixed?
Yeah, I like to mix. I'm a scientist in my kitchen. I always come up with different recipes so that every time you walk past, you pick up on a different scent. Yeah. It's nice. I never like diffusing just one thing. I like to make combinations. And
so you mixed it up when you put it inside.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what you
so
did.
I added about 6 drops of each one into this diffuser, which is 150 milliliters that this one holds. I have several different diffusers in my shop, but the essential oils are great. You can use them topically. They're all holistic, therapeutic grade. My website is very much educational, so I give you different kits you can start with so that you can kind of introduce yourself to the life of essential oils. And once you begin to see how they transform your mood and your sleep and your breathing, you become an essential oils addict. I promise you.
There it is. Hey, listen, I can talk to you all day, Monique.
Yes.
I had a pleasure talking to you. I love how open and vulnerable you are. And divorces, that moment that you had about, how you felt filing for divorce and all that, that moment I resonated with. And I wanted to just give you that moment. I didn't want to interrupt it. I just wanted you to process that moment and be in it. And we ain't rushing nothing. So let that moment be that moment. And I think that was felt across the world. Mm-hmm. It was felt across the world. So, hey, y'all give it up for my homie, Monique Samuels, y'all. Stay tuned to the end for a letter to my future wifey.
And writing these love letters to you.
Ladarian thrusted suddenly into Child Protective Services in 2015. My nephew, Black, a boy. The likelihood of being adopted outside of kinship, slim to none. Armani, 16 years old, Black, a boy, with 5 years in the foster care system before I even knew his name. The likelihood of ever being adopted, yep, you guessed it, slim to none. While Ladarian and Armani were trying to survive and barely thrive in an overpopulated and underfunded foster care system, I was living my own life, doing well professionally. Having been a single father with a daughter who at that point was doing well in college, it was my time to live my life, right? Wrong. I felt unsettled, tireless, agitated. There are just too many of our Black children stuck in ambiguity and in the limbo of the foster care system. In 2017, I legally adopted my nephew, Ladarian. Fast forward to 2019, I had no ties to this other young king, but I felt God instructed me to adopt him also, and I obeyed. Starting over with parenting should have been enough, right? Working with various foster care and adoption agencies to help bring awareness to the countless young Black kings in the foster care system should have decreased my agitation, right? Joining the board of directors of Advantage Adoption, an organization that helps find permanent adoptive homes for children in foster care, should have led to some type of resolve, right? No, not at all. None of it felt like I had done enough. I now realize that every one of those experiences was laying the fundamental foundation for my life's mission, Kingdom Royale. Kingdom Royale will be a luxury, state-of-the-art home for foster boys. Our first location will be in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. We will utilize the whole person approach that instills identity, empowers them to advocate for themselves, and enlightens them regarding new perspectives and limitless options that they thought were impossible. Though the young kings will attend the local public schools that are in proximity to Kingdom Royale, our at-home curriculum will broaden their worldview through participating in the arts, attending various cultural events, learning about and engaging in multifaceted discussions about current events and even relevant historical contexts, introducing them to gardening and landscaping and even caring for our animals on our farm and on-site stables. We just launched our Startup Capital campaign with the goal of raising $2.8 million. Now, why $2.8 million? Well, in 2017, I created a web series in which I performed random acts of kindness for targeting the homeless community. One of the most notable successes was that one of the videos went viral, garnering 28 million views. However, one of my biggest regrets is that I didn't raise a single dollar to help in implementing a more sustainable plan for the homeless community. So throughout the years, with much remorse, I reflected on not maximizing that moment. I knew if at that time, just 10% of the viewers donated $1, we would have raised at least $2.8 million that could have really established long-term support for the homeless community, or at least started a long-term initiative to do so. This is my do-over. This is our new beginning. Together, we can attack this at the root by specifically helping our homeless Black boys who are already disproportionately represented in the American foster care system. I'm Laterras R. Whitfield. I've been nominated for 3 regional Emmys documenting my work with the homeless as well as my personal adoption journey. Despite those accolades, the greatest award for me is truly providing the infrastructure for a transformed life. Visit kingdomroyale.com for more details. Crown a king and make a donation today. Man, I absolutely enjoyed this episode with Monique. Listen, here's my favorite part of the podcast where I speak to my future wifey. Dear future wifey, I love you. I love how you talk to me and through me. Your encouraging words fuel my soul and charge my mind to accomplish great exploits. There's a power in your words that quenches the thirst of my spirit. In a world that often seems to drain and deplete, your voice is my sanctuary, a soft rain falling on the arid places of my soul. Every time you speak, it's as if you're planting seeds of love, encouragement, and hope with each tender syllable. They bloom into vibrant reminders of the life we are building together. Your words are never careless. They are intentional. They heal wounds I never knew I carried, fill voids I tried to ignore, and spark a fire in me to be the man you deserve. I don't take this lightly, my love. I promise to nurture your heart in the same way you nurture mine, with words of life, affirmations of truth, and declarations of unwavering love. You water my soul, and I vow to protect the garden we cultivate together, ensuring it grows with the kind of beauty that inspires generations. You are my gift, my peace, my partner in purpose. Your future hubby. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Dear Future Wifey podcast. Remember, be lit, live intentionally and transparently, and don't stop loving. Make sure to subscribe to our Dear Future Wifey YouTube channel. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher. We welcome your support. Simply share our podcast with your friends and family.